Looking for a great gadget? Our selection of the latest gadget reviews will help you find the ideal drones, GPS devices, toys and more. Also the latest reviews on laptop, mobile phone reviews, tablets, cameras and other gadgets reviews. Please like and subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Oppo Reno Z review. The Oppo Reno line's more affordable sibling. It's hard to find much to dislike about the Oppo Reno Z, while some features could be better, like the chipset and camera, they're far from bad. Throw in the impressive design and display and you've got a fantastic phone, particularly given its budget price tag. Oppo is a relative newcomer to the Western smartphone market, but it hustled to become one of the major Chinese players in a crowded field. With the Oppo Reno and its big brother, the Oppo Reno XZ Zoom, and the Oppo Find X, the company has found a way to marry quirky gimmicks with powerful devices. The new Oppo Reno 2 is more of the same, making the Oppo Reno Z even more of a budget option. The Oppo Reno Z, by comparison, is rather vanilla by Oppo standards. It has a teardrop notch instead of the pop-up camera found on the above phones, 2 cameras instead of 3 or 4, and a mid-range chipset. The device fits into the niche of light phones from otherwise high-end or mid-range brands, alongside similar offerings from Huawei, Honor, Xiaomi, Google, and many other manufacturers, and it's got a lot of competition in that regard. The design of the Oppo Reno Z is very similar to that of the standard Oppo Reno and the Reno XZ Zoom, which is to say it feels assuredly premium. In fact, in our review of the Reno XZ Zoom we said that phone feels stylish in a way few phones do, and we're glad Oppo opted not to change the design that much. In fact, save for the absence of the camera-toting pop-up fin and one rear camera, and a few small cosmetic changes, you could be forgiven for confusing the Reno Z for the Reno. The Oppo Reno Z dimensions are 157.3 by 74.9 by 9.1 mm, so it's barely bigger than the base Oppo Reno, and at 186 grams it's only 1 gram heavier. The front and back of the device are Corning Gorilla Glass, with a plastic frame in between. The device feels nicely streamlined. There's no camera bump on the rear of the phone, as the lenses are set flush with the body of the phone, rather than being housed in a protruding bump, so the only feature you can feel on the back is the O-dot, a small bump just below the cameras, included so that the lenses won't get scratched if you lay the phone flat on a surface. This streamlined design ethos is carried through to the buttons on the sides of the phone. The volume rocker on the left, and the power button on the right, are built into small indentations, so they don't stick out nearly as much as they might. They're not totally flush with the sides, as is the case on the Honor 20, but there's not much of a protrusion. On the bottom of the phone are a USB-C port, a feature which, at this price tag, isn't guaranteed, and a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is good news for people who don't want to ditch their wired headphones just yet. All in all, the Oppo Reno Z isn't nearly as novel as the Oppo Reno, but it certainly feels similarly premium despite its lower price tag. You can pick the phone up in Aurora Purple or Jet Black colors. You're getting an AMOLED display in the Oppo Reno Z, which is impressive for a budget phone, and this offers a wide color gamut and good contrast compared to the displays found on many budget phones. It's a 6.4-inch display, which is a touch on the large side, so it might be tricky to use if you have smaller hands. The resolution is 1080 by 2340, with 402 pixels per inch, so the resolution and overall quality are as good as you'll get on the best from Apple or Samsung. Movies and games look great on the Oppo Reno Z, and the display was able to render subtle gradations of color from the pictures we took. Max brightness wasn't fantastic, but it's better than other phones we've seen at around this price point, and we didn't have issues with it. On top of the high screen quality, you'll find an in-screen fingerprint sensor, which is far from a certainty at phones of this price tag. It's a useful feature that makes opening your phone quick and easy, and the presence of the tech in the Reno Z is a pleasant surprise. The catch, if you can call it that, is that the Oppo Reno Z has a teardrop notch. Some might find that a deal breaker, if they're the type who prefers an Oppo Reno-style pop-up camera or the Honor 20's punch-hole design, but given how small and unobtrusive the Reno Z's notch is, we can't see it being an issue for many people. The teardrop notch and a medium-sized chin give the phone a 85.8% screen-to-body ratio, which is actually very close to the 86.8% of the Oppo Reno, so the notch doesn't steal much screen space. The Oppo Reno Z has a 4035 mAh battery, which is fairly sizable for a budget smartphone, and we certainly weren't disappointed with its performance. With medium to heavy use the Reno Z easily lasted a day, and with light use it managed to last 2 full days before it needed recharging. That heavy use included a gaming, and we were able to enjoy lengthy sessions without having to worry about the battery running down. When we put the handset through our battery test, which involves looping a 90-minute video at full brightness with accounts syncing over Wi-Fi in the background, the device lost 10% of its battery. That's an impressive performance. It's the same as the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, which has a similar screen size but a slightly bigger battery, and costs a good deal more, and better than competitors like the Google Pixel 3a, which lost 16%. Recharging the Oppo Reno Z is fairly snappy, thanks to Oppo's 20W VOOC fast charging tech, but it wasn't as quick as competitors' equivalents, and it took a little longer to power the device to 100% than we'd have liked. The camera is the Oppo Reno Z's weakest link. It's certainly not a bad camera compared to competitors, and it has some impressive specs, but it doesn't have enough versatility to make it useful in every situation. This is to be expected from its price tag, but it's still enough to give you cause to question if the Reno Z is for you. The Reno Z has 2 rear cameras. The first has a 4.8MP sensor and f1.7 lens, and the latter is a 5MP f2.4 depth sensing camera. If these specs sound familiar, it's because they're the same as the Oppo Reno. No, there's no ultra-wide angle or telephoto lens, which are both staples of most modern smartphone cameras, on mid-ranges and above, and even at this price point, and you can feel their absence when you use the device. The lack of an ultra-wide lens is jarring enough when you use the feature frequently, either for group selfies or to take panoramic shots with larger fields of view, but the loss of the telephoto lens is most noticeable. This is typically used for optical zoom, and in its absence you can only use digital zoom of up to 10x, and these pictures are so grainy that it's not worth taking them. When you're just taking normal, non-zoomed pictures using the Oppo Reno Z, there's a lot to like. Colors are captured well without looking either muted or overly saturated, autofocus is quick and accurate, and scene optimization, HDR and dazzle colors all work fluidly without compromising the natural look of pictures. One issue we found now and then is that the scene optimization setting misread a subject. One example was a rocky outcrop being identified as a bouquet, which it most certainly wasn't. This issue was fairly rare, however. In outdoor settings, we found the Reno Z couldn't always capture long or wide shots with great color or detail accuracy, and the AI camera tech didn't handle exposure well. We often had to dive into the expert mode and tinker with the settings to get the best shots. Close-up shots looked great though, as mentioned autofocus is fast, and in general the image quality is high, likely thanks to the 4.8MP sensor. Portrait mode makes the most of the depth sensor, and as a result background blur in portrait shots was usually appropriate, without looking too artificial or mistakenly blurring parts of the subject. Pictures taken in low light settings looked okay. Night mode, used both at night and in dark indoor conditions, produced images that were brighter than standard shots, but at the expense of a lot of image quality, so these pictures often looked a little soft as a result. The Oppo Reno Z's front-facing camera is 3.2MP, so it's actually got a higher resolution than the 1.6MP Oppo Reno selfie snapper. Pictures taken on this were high quality, with the higher pixel count capturing enough detail for selfies to look appropriately colorful and well lit, even when the lighting conditions weren't optimal. In general, we found the camera more than perfectly capable for taking portrait pictures and standard shots using the main camera, but if you want anything more, be it a zoomed shot, low-light picture or outdoor panorama, you might want to consider looking at a higher price point for a great camera phone. The camera app is very quick and snappy to use, which is no surprise given the 8GB RAM on board, and it has the standard UI you'll find on most Android phones. The Oppo Reno Z runs Oppo's ColorOS operating system over Android 9. It's certainly not the most garish user interface we've seen from a Chinese phone brand. We're looking at you, Huawei, despite the screen quality boosting its colors. ColorOS feels quite simple and straightforward to use. Icons in the pull-down menu and in settings screens are fairly big and easy to tap, and the default mode shows all installed apps over multiple pages on your home screen, although you can switch to a drawer mode if you prefer. As with most UIs, gesture navigation is an option, and we found this fairly reliable. On the topic of reliability, the Oppo Reno Z has Face Unlock, and it's one of the snappiest implementations we've seen. Almost every time we picked up the phone it worked way quicker than using an in-screen fingerprint sensor, although that option is also available if you prefer not saving pictures of your face on your phone. But back to the OS, while we don't mind the way it looks, it didn't always feel very fast to use. It wasn't a huge problem, as navigating the UI and opening apps didn't feel slow by any means, but it definitely wasn't as snappy as a more expensive phone, or even other handsets at the price tag. You can probably look to the chipset for this, as we'll get into in a later review, but unless you're used to the snappiest phone UIs, you probably won't notice its interface performance much. A useful upgrade over ColorOS in the base Oppo Reno is that, while there's still quite a bit of bloatware pre-installed on the phone, several of the most egregious space wasters are gone, which suggests that Oppo is starting to recognize that most consumers don't want the new phone to come stuffed with pre-installed apps that are of questionable value. Thanks to its AMOLED screen, the Oppo Reno Z is one of your best options if you want a device that's great for streaming movies and TV shows without breaking the bank. Colors are well defined, although depending on where you're watching your shows you may find the max brightness a bit of a problem. We found the automatic brightness wasn't always great at working out how bright to make the screen. Oppo has a dedicated gaming app, GameSpace, which is similar to the gaming apps most manufacturers include on their phones in that it diverts all your processing power to gaming, and silences notifications until you're done. It also acts as a hub for your games, so instead of hunting through your many apps, you can just tap the GameSpace app. Games run well on the Oppo Reno Z, and we played a few, including City Builder Theo Town and popular shooter PUBG Mobile without noticing too much lag. Graphics were rendered smoothly at their highest settings, and gameplay felt fluid. Some games weren't compatible with the phone, such as Rome, Total War and LEGO Hidden Sides, so we hope that changes over time. While most budget smartphones have just one speaker for media, which is on the bottom and can easily be covered by your hand while you're watching content or playing a game, the Oppo Reno Z has a second speaker at the top, making it less easy to inadvertently muffle the sound, and adding to the phone's gaming credentials. The phone can pump out impressive sound quality too, thanks to the inclusion of Dolby Atmos audio smarts. There's also the aforementioned 3.5mm headphone jack, so users of wired headphones will be able to happily listen to their tunes. We often say that a good budget phone doesn't feel like a budget phone, but the Oppo Reno Z is one of the few examples that truly feels like a premium phone. It's got a sleek design and a high-quality screen, and in general use it doesn't betray its affordable roots. Yes, some features could be improved, such as the camera or the chipset, but even these weaker elements feel impressive given the price you're paying, and you're not going to be looking at a phone with the Reno Z's price tag if you need a spectacular camera or powerful processing. Never mind best budget phone, the Oppo Reno Z would be a serious contender for the title of best mid-range phone, and with Oppo releasing it at such a low price it's certain to upset the budget competition. It's a great handset, with specs and features far more advanced than you're paying for, and it's a serious warning shot across the bows of rival brands as Oppo seeks to establish itself in Western markets.